What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show where we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg, and this is my cool friend, Ryan Penagos from Marvel. Yay!
Yay! That's very cool.
First things first.
Yes.
We've known each other a long time.
Sure.
How did I do in your last name? Because it's the first time I've ever said it.
Great, actually.
Thank
Yeah.
God. Oh, my God. It's always my biggest fear.
It's funny because so I have a half brother and a half sister that I only met through MySpace in like 2007.
What?
It's a whole thing.
Well, we'll get into it on this
Sure.
show. That's what this show's all about.
But they say it Penagos. I say it Penagos.
Okay.
So I feel like
Either way, I couldn't go wrong on that.
right.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I respect the way
appreciate
that they say it, even though I've always said it differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yes.
You work for Marvel.
I do.
I want to know all about that today. We're going to talk about this MySpace half family thing. But before we go any further, there's a lot of people freaking out right now while they watch this because they said, "Wait a second." I clicked on patreon.com/kindafunny on the link for Greg's comic book club issue number 19. We're doing something very special here, ladies and gentlemen. What we're doing, of course, is that We Have Cool Friends is our show that airs every Monday, youtube.com/kindafunny, podcast services around the globe. Greg's Comic Book Club is a monthly show exclusive to patreon.com/kindafunny for $1. You go as $1.
Just $1?
And you get other stuff too.
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. However, with Ryan here, and it being very late on a Friday, and we did a whole bunch of cool Marvel content, my thought was to combine the shows for the first time ever. So the idea here is that this episode of We Have Cool Friends will be live for everybody later, but you're getting it, $1 supporters, early on patreon.com/kindafunny, ad-free, of course, all that jazz. And on top of that, when we're done with the We Have Cool Friends section, we're going to do the Comic Book Club issue 19 part, which, of course, was We Stand on Guard. We have to talk about that book.
Oh, my gosh.
Excited to talk about
I
some
love
comics?
it.
That part will be one big part of the show that's over on patreon.com/kindafunny. So if you're a normal We Have Cool Friends viewer or watcher, maybe you like this episode, you want to go to Patreon and give us $1 and you can watch it along with the 18 other issues of Greg's Comic Book Club, hours and hours of entertainment. But I digress. Housekeeping for you, of course, we're going to EGLX in October 18th and 19th. Myself, Nick, and Andy will be in Toronto, rocking EGLX. Come out and see us. And then, of course, we couldn't do We Have Cool Friends without our Patreon producers and sponsors like these. But see, again, since we're recording in advance, you don't know. Nobody knows what they are.
What a mystery.
Ryan.
Yes.
Agent M.
Sir.
How long have you worked at Marvel?
It'll be 13 years on October 30th of 2019.
That is a long time,
Yeah.
sir. Do you feel that that's been a long time?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Just because the world has changed in terms of the Marvel of it all and everything that we do. It has been a long time, but at the same time, I get to do fun stuff. I enjoy what I do. Like part of what I was doing today was this morning I was hanging out with Adam Savage in his cave and talking to him about all the things he makes. And then I came over here to talk to you for 2 of our shows at Marvel. Yeah. And then I get to come and do this with you.
It's 2 shows in one. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's great.
So what is your title now? What do you do now at Marvel?
My title doesn't really reflect what I do.
Perfect.
Because that's a corporate stuff.
Of course,
that's the way it goes. It's fine.
Org charts.
Yeah. I've seen many of those in my day. I am vice president and creative executive for Marvel New Media.
Okay. So what does that mean?
So Marvel New Media is what was originally Marvel Digital Media. That was what I started in 2006. I started there as an associate editor on the website. So similar to you, journalism. I have a journalism degree and all that stuff.
Where from?
SUNY Purchase in right near, really, probably like 8 minutes away from where the X-Men would have lived, in Westchester.
Yeah.
And so now it's a lot of hosting. It's a lot of, I have 2 podcasts. I have a video show. We have New York Comic Con is days away from when we're recording this. And so there's a million things that I'm doing there. And so it's a lot of getting in front of people and doing fun stuff and telling people why I'm so excited about Marvel, to help them get excited about Marvel, to teach them about Marvel, to share with them about Marvel. It's just like get to celebrate Marvel.
What was the job originally when you came in then? Was it just writing blogs?
Yeah, it was associate editor. So I'll back up a little bit because I know you're a Wizard magazine
You
fan.
know I'm a Wizard guy. You know I
Yeah,
love Wizard.
of course.
Yeah.
I remember my first issue of Wizard was issue number 8. I closed my eyes. Will Portasio cover. It has Bishop with his beautiful mullet, and he's got the Wizard robe draped over him.
Yeah.
So
I remember
good.
that one.
Yeah. That was the first issue I bought, and I was like, this is everything I want about comics. And like, I think that was the first signal of like, oh, I like entertainment journalism.
Sure.
And then like talking about things that I like and having that conversation. And so I got my journalism degree at SUNY Purchase and graduated, and Toy Fair magazine, which is a sister magazine of Wizard.
Yeah.
They had
Zach the Malamute.
I haven't thought about that in a while. And so Toy Fair had an opening for an assistant editor.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great. I think I know what that does. I'll apply for it. I have a journalism degree. It'll be great. And where I went to school and where I was living was so close to where Wizard was at the time. It was 20 minutes away from there. And so I apply. End of school year, I'm like, oh, I didn't hear anything back. I remember I was in my apartment in college like a month before closing up and moving back home. And I get a phone call. It's like, hi, can I speak to Ryan? And it's like, yes. Hi, my name is Justin Acklin. I'm at Toy Fair Magazine. You applied for the job of assistant editor. And I was like, yes. Hi, hello. And he's like, I got the job. I'm sorry, but I need a freelance writer. Would you like to write freelance for me? And I said, yes, of course. Whatever to get me in my foot in the door.
Sure, yeah, totally, dude.
The fun thing about that is Justin Acklin he's been a great friend of mine for 15 years. He works very closely with Nintendo right now in video game stuff. And the guy who told him to give me a shot at freelance is Matt Senreich, who works for Stupid Buddy, who is one of the creators of Robot Chicken. Yeah. Matt is a huge gamer, huge fan, has been a good friend. So it's like funny how these, the people along the way help you out, right?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So important. So I start writing freelance. I go back home, live with my mom for,
And what year are we at right now, roughly?
So this is 2002.
Okay.
2002. And I go back home, get a job at Blockbuster. I'm just working retail.
Trying to make it happen.
Yeah, freelancing at night, calling. I had many phone calls to Hong Kong because I was doing articles about military toys.
Okay.
I know nothing about military toys, but I guess I was doing it fine, writing about them. This goes on for a while. They say
the readers didn't know anything either.
No,
They're like, all right, military toys. This guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Fake it and you make it. And so I'm doing it, and then I get a phone call from Wizard say, hey, we're going to have an opening in our research department. Would you like to come up and apply for it and interview for it?
Yeah.
I said, yes, of course. Like, that's great. It's a wild thing to get that recommendation internally for something you didn't even know about.
Yeah.
I go up and I'm wearing my best ill-fitting suit. I've got my Venom tie on.
Yeah, you do.
It's an Eric Larson Venom, the tongue and the green.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this will impress them. I'm a child. I'm still, 22, 23, whatever, out of school. And so I go up, and they're in Congress at this point. I'm living in Long Island, and I go. It's great. I drive up there. I just bomb. I flop sweat in the interview. I'm in this conference room. I'm looking up, and I'm one-word answers. Like, I just froze, and it was terrible. Joe Iannarello, who was the managing editor at the time, he's like, I could see it, like, I got it. This is done. Like, let's wrap this up. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Off you go.
Yeah.
Go to my car. Forgot to turn the lights off on my car because it was like I had to have the lights on for whatever reason. Car battery's dead.
Oh my god, this is like everyone's like anxious
Yeah.
anxiety nightmare of like
Terrible.
at least it's over. I bombed the interview, made a fool of myself. I can just go home and cry now. No, you can't.
Nope. Go to the car, walk back in. Can someone jumpstart my car?
Yeah.
Joe comes out. This is like a guy who doesn't care about comics. He's a sports guy, but he's a really hard-nosed, good manager. He's J. Jonah Jameson in some way. And so he's like, all right, gives me the jump. Fine. Continue freelancing for months. I get another phone call like, Ryan, we've got a different job. There's a price guide assistant for Wizard.
Sure.
One more try? You want to come up? Yes. Come up. I've already bombed. I've
Yeah.
learned what I need to learn. I've gone through the worst experience.
Yeah.
I go in, crush it. I don't remember it,
Yeah.
but I crushed it.
Yeah.
I remember at this point now, I'm living in Brooklyn. I'm still working 2 different Blockbusters, and like trying to do all this stuff. Living in Brooklyn at the time, and I remember I was walking down the street in Greenpoint, going for a sandwich, and I get the phone call. I'm like my little flip phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, grab it. It's Wizard. We'd like to offer you the job of price guide assistant for Wizard magazine. You'll be making 21,000,
wow,
23,000, something like that.
What a payday!
It's like, yes, sign me up. I live in Brooklyn. This is not, like past Westchester.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is upstate, right?
This is a terrible idea, but I want to do it. This is how you do it. And so I make that move. Like I say, I'm going to do it. Great, start it. It goes really well for what it is. I end up moving up there. I end up taking over the price guide within a month of being there. Sort of redefined what that meant. And for me, I was very close with the retailers, because it's a thing. How do you figure out what the price of a comic book is?
Yeah.
You have to talk to people. Like you call up a comic book shop and like, what's hot? What's good? What are people asking?
Really, I never realized that was me. If I'm sure many of you aren't comic book people. If you don't know, like one of the big deals of Wizard was that the back of every issue was this price guide that showed you how much comics were worth, so you could price out your own collection and see again what was up, what was down. It was like the stocks every month.
Yeah, and they had a system for it, and they had a terrible database that was like archaic and like constructed by like people just hammering stuff together on a computer. And
well, it took forever somebody to get a program that worked on that. I remember with our second home computer, my mom coming home with the box of like, here you go, like a birthday present or whatever, to put my comics in, and like going through, and it was like so obtuse, and it didn't have the right information for what I was trying to enter.
It was rough. And so they had ways that they did it, and I thought, well, we have to figure out more ways. We have to get this information better. So I worked on that. I ended up working on, I was a big video game guy, so I would like to work on the video game section of the magazine. And eventually I took that over. I like independent comics. I want to take that over. So I would like slowly amass pieces of things. We had a great team there, friends that I have now, like for my entire life.
Yeah.
I became an associate editor. And so when I made that jump, that would have been like 2005 as associate editor for Wizard. I think I started 2003, 2 years there, working my way through. So become an associate editor. And so Wizard at the time, like any major publication, different people have beats. And so there was someone who was the Marvel editor, Marvel contact, someone who's the DC contact, someone who's the Image contact, someone who's Dark Horse, someone who's Hollywood. Yeah. And so their part of their responsibilities was to liaise with whatever that company or Hollywood and to figure out what we put in the magazine. So when I'm at Wizard, they make me the Marvel contact, which is great because I'm a Marvel guy. Like that was reading from childhood, and so I start that as the Marvel contact, which is wild to think about. I'm an outside guy. I get all this access to everything that Marvel was planning in terms of the comics. And stuff. I remember going to the editorial retreats for Marvel where they would plan out 2 years of stories before or like while Civil War. No, it was before Civil War. They blur, right? But like going to these retreats and hearing them break story and put things together, and you've got guys like, Jeff Loeb, Ed Brubaker, Brian Michael Bendis, J. Michael Straczynski, Dan Slott, many writers.
Sure.
Figuring this out, and I'm sitting there and I'm like getting to know them, getting to know the editors, and so I built relationships with the people at Marvel. And there was a summer of 2006. I'm visiting Marvel headquarters on one of my regular visits to do my job.
See what's happening.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, Ryan, just go and do your thing. So I would walk around to different editorial offices. Okay, what are you guys working? What's got you excited coming out in 3 or 4 months that we can put in the magazine? What's the information?
Cover stories and figure out features and stuff.
Yeah. And so I do this, and I'm like super cash. I've got Most Precious Blood T-shirt on, which is like a metal hardcore band that I know. I've got camouflage, cargo shorts on, and I'm walking around, and then I hear, Ryan, hey, come on over here. And it's a vice president, a guy named John Dokes, off in an office. What are you doing? Have a seat. Let's chat. And I'm like, all right, John. We start talking, we're talking, and and eventually he's like, yeah, let me bring someone else in and talk to you. This is Pete Olson, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I'm like, this is a job interview.
Yeah.
Oh. And so it's an ambush job interview that I do well at, and they want to bring me on as associate editor for Marvel.com to do Wizard internally at Marvel
Sure.
in a rough sense. Basically, hype, promote,
Totally.
do it in brand.
We
journalism.
saw the same thing. Right around that time frame in video games, right? Where it was that people started getting scooped up from your IGNs to go to Ubisoft, to go to Bethesda, to start the PlayStation blog, to go out there and be like, well, why are we relying on other people? We can write this ourselves and bring our never have our community leave the .com and never leave our space.
Yeah. And so, creating blogs and doing all kinds of stuff. So that was the beginning.
And were you torn? Did you want to leave Wizard? Or, I mean, was it just that cool to be like on the inside of Marvel?
It was cool. I'm a Marvel guy. I love Wizard, and I had a lot of friends.
Yeah.
But that's the move, right? I'd watched my friend Alex Segura, who's an amazing writer, and then he's president of Archie right now, and he's the best. I watch him move from Wizard to DC. I watch other friends move from Wizard to a different company. Like that was just the move. Wizard was great.
At the time? Because I mean, we've talked. Obviously, we're friends, but like. It's so awesome how much your story mirrors my story in terms of how it all went down.
It's wild.
Is that how it was at Wizard, that people were there? I'm sure there were the lifers who I'm going to write about comics and entertainment forever. But were there people similar to how it is in the video game industry of like, I write about games and review games, but I'd love to make games and I want to see those connections get over there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely people who went into that route. And, comic editing is such a creative part of the process. I look at that as making comics just as much as writing or drawing them.
Of course,
as I see the process up close, and so a lot of the staff became comic book editors. There was a running joke at Wizard and DC in those days, like, oh, it's another Wizard guy.
Yeah.
And I was like the fourth Wizard guy at Marvel at one point. Like there was 2 editors, there was someone over here.
Yeah.
DC now still has a bunch of former Wizard editors who are making comics at the editorial level, and then there's tons who are making comics, writing or drawing or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny, again, the way our stories mirror each other, because I always talk about, my thing, and I applied at IGN, 13 times on my Gmail, didn't have access to my Mizzou, and it's on the 13th time I got it. I put it in while you were talking, of course, right? June 28th, 2005, 11:25 a.m., Wizard Entertainment application. I send an email to Kyle Ackerman. Kyle, and I haven't read this since I sent it, and boy howdy. Kyle, hi. You should be getting my hard copy of my cover letter, resume, and clips tomorrow or the next day for the video game writer/copy editor position. So you should probably bring an extra pair of underwear to work tomorrow. My application is going to be that good. I look forward to talking to you, Greg.
I'm surprised that didn't get past.
How did I not get a response?
Like, look at this guy. What is his deal?
Honestly, I got that call. I did. That was you talk about blowing the interview. That's what I did. Is that I would have been what if that was I always thought it was I had a call with Inquest Gamer, and I did freelance for Inquest for a while.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I did. I did like 1 or 2 pieces. One about like it was when I was already working at the Trib, so it would have been 2005, 2006, probably off of failing this interview so spectacularly. But it was that I did a thing about this group of Marines that were over in Iraq, and they were playing like Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan, and it was like how gaming was a distraction for them. An interview I did all through email with them and stuff. But yeah, my Inquest interview is like, I always say, again, that you get this story out of me when the normal shows don't. Just 2 times in my life where I couldn't stop talking. Number 1, which is a story, if you listen to the video game content, you hear enough of the first time I met Dan Chu from EGM, where I just like lost it. And I mean, I already work at IGN. Like, I'm in the industry. I was pure. Lost it and couldn't stop talking. And Dan was like, okay, leave you. Let me see you later. And the second was the Inquest Gamer phone call. When they were like, they were going to start a video game section of that magazine.
No, I remember that very, very well. I was still there.
I got the call, and it was like, how are you, Greg? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? Great. So what have you been playing? And I was like, and it's like in your head, you're like, stop talking. Why are you talking so much about BioWare right now? Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. And I couldn't. And they were like, all right, talk to you later. Click.
Wow, like, this guy was too much. Yeah. Next.
But it was the same way like you, right? Where then when I got the IGN call, I was like, listen to the questions, let them ask you questions.
Yeah.
Like, let's not be psychos about it.
Can you I What If is a big thing for me, both like the comic series that we do is one of my favorite comics.
Me too, man.
And
that, man, you talking about that Disney Plus show one day? Oh my Lord.
Oh boy. But just the what if of reality. Tom Brevoort, who is one of the he's he celebrates his 30th year at Marvel really soon, and he's edited pretty much every great comic you've read from Marvel. His hand has been touched on in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
He's worked on the Avengers and through so much. And I was talking to him recently, and like, he wasn't a Marvel guy growing up. He was a DC guy.
Sure.
He applied to be an intern at both Marvel and DC. Marvel is the one that got back to him. And my what if is,
What if DC did?
what if DC had gotten Tom? Honestly, I think the comic industry would be so different.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
And so what if you got that Inquest
Sure.
job,
Right.
and you would have moved
To
all
New
the way to
York?
New York,
Yeah.
and you would have, it's wild.
It's crazy to think about that. We talk about it all the time with stuff like Dan Riker, Giant Bomb,
Yeah.
right? He had gotten the call too for the IGN job I got. Like he had applied for that and I guess got calls too. So it was like right there's that coin flip of like what I've ended up at Game Informer and then Giant Bomb. You know what I mean? Like how would that have worked out in the long run? Would I have not made it at all? Would it have been, just been a newspaper man my whole life? Would it have never caught up? It's crazy to sit there and think that. But so it wasn't, you were ready to go to Marvel. Like that's just awesome. Yeah.
It was the time. It just felt right. It was okay for it.
Did you think that I'm going to go do this thing, which again at the time was radical? We're going to do our own content. We're going to make our own stuff. We're going to have our own messaging. Did you think you were going to do that and be there 13 years? Or did you think you were going to go do that and this will fizzle out in a bit?
I thought like, I'm going to go to Marvel. I never want to leave Marvel.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. There was a point where Mike Cotton, who's now an editor at DC, when we were both at Wizard, we were talking about, moving to these other companies. What would you do? I was like, I'll be editor-in-chief. And he's like, okay, so what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know.
I'm gonna they're gonna make good comics, and I'm gonna be the guy telling them to make the good
I'm gonna
comics.
tell them what
Can
to
you make
do.
the comics better? Make them better.
And so I think at one point I thought, well, I want to make comics in that way. And as I've done what I do so long, I'm like, I love doing what I do.
Yeah.
Like I love sharing our stories with people in a way and shining a spotlight on stories. You know this because the best friends, the community is so strong. You hear from people. I tell you like, oh, I checked out a game because you guys talked about it or whatever it is. But like all the time I get messages from someone who listens to the shows that we do. And like, I started reading this because you guys loved it so much. You were right.
Yeah.
And now I went back and I bought it. Like that's why I do it, because I want people to experience these things. And so, yeah, I think now I don't want to make comics. I like to celebrate all of Marvel.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I ever thought I would leave, or it would fizzle. It was just like the direction I would take would change within Marvel, which is always good because a lot of people do move around within the company. There's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
But, doing what I do is fun.
Yeah. So when did you notice it start to pivot away from you're writing a lot to you're being on podcasts, you're being in front of the camera? Well, I mean, is there a moment for you when you realized you became a personality? Because I remember distinctly at IGN one day when you followed someone on Twitter, and everyone's like, H&M just followed whoever it was in the room, and we're like, oh my god! And it was a big deal that you because for all intents and purposes, you were like for a lot of people the face of Marvel. Like people get their Marvel news from you. They hear you talk. Like it's always that same thing with me and talking about video games, right? Where it's not fair that I have all these Twitter followers and I have a career, and like you talk to a developer who did your favorite game, and you can be in the same room as that and not know that.
Yeah.
But I talk about your favorite game, and people know me and celebrate me that way.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was part of it was the Twitter of it all. Like I remember reading an article in Wired about Twitter the beginning of 2007.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome. We got to do this. We got to be part of this. And Warren Ellis was writing comics, and because he's always 5 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
He is like putting Twitter in comics, and I'm like, this is something important that we need to find a handle on. And so I invited Biz and Jack from Twitter to Marvel, be like, how do we work together? And so that was a big part of building it, because working with Twitter and like there was an elevation just that they didn't tell me that they were going to like put me on their homepage one day.
Yeah.
Back when Twitter had a homepage with these people are good or whatever it was.
Well, it was always the recommended, right? I remember our friend Veronica Belmont,
Yeah.
like when she had like 1.6 million followers, and it was like, granted, that's still a huge deal. this is back when nobody had it. And like,
Right.
how did this happen? She's like, I logged in, I got at Veronica, and they're like, oh, if you like video games, she likes video games. There
Yep.
you go.
Yeah, and that was just something that happened, and that became part of it on that side. And then on the Marvel side, it was just we needed someone who could talk and who could do things, and I'm fairly okay with Word, and so I would do videos or whatever. It wasn't an intentional thing.
Sure.
It was just like, oh, I'm able-bodied and can do these things, and it just sort of grew from there.
When did you notice, or did you notice? It's so crazy to think back 13 years ago of what Marvel as a brand was compared to now. Like, is it how I look at IGN? Like, when I started IGN in 2007, it was Grandma's Boy. It was all these guys who had grown up and founded this site together, still fucking with each other, still being a bunch of clowns, being a bunch of idiots, not worrying about anything, right? And then now you go to IGN and everyone is so professional, and I would have never gotten hired there, and I don't know as much as any of those people.
Yeah.
Like, is that like what it was to walk in there? Was it like a crazy clubhouse?
It wasn't a crazy clubhouse. It was more mom and pop, but still like professional, but like we're slightly underdoggy. We're the like we're making the cool comics, the cool stories. We've got something that touches people in a certain way.
Yeah.
We know it. We're smaller, much smaller than we are now.
Yeah.
And everybody sort of knew each other. Everybody worked closely. Like I was the 6th person hired for digital media. I'm still there. We've got, I don't even know how many people, probably somewhere close to triple digits,
Yeah.
just across, new media, what we do or everywhere. And it changes, but you try to find that balance, that corporate culture, that family,
Yeah.
bring the different groups together still to this day.
Sure. And I imagine, even though things have changed, people, and it's less mom and pop or whatever, it's still the same idea of why would you want to work at Marvel? Well, you want to work at Marvel because the brand means something to you. Comics mean something to you.
Yeah.
These stories mean something to you, right?
Yeah. I mean, very much so. Especially for me, and I think about that a lot. It's like I look at the people who come in, like talk to them about Marvel, and hope that they have that connection.
Yeah.
Because when I have that connection, I give that connection to the people who watch our videos, who read our articles, who whatever engage with the things I do, and I want other people to find those touch points. Like Lorraine Sink is a co-host of mine on much of what I do, and it's the same with her. And like I think I gel with her so well because she is that pure love and authenticity about Marvel. And so I think that's really important, finding that. And I think that is, to me, is the most crucial point. Whether it's me or someone else, we got to give that to people.
When they announced they're doing Iron Man, and this starts happening, right? Like, what are your thoughts for the movies? Like, obviously it's exciting, there's more movies, but at this point, Spider-Man had already been happening off with other people. We've seen movies come and go. We saw Marvel, of course, sell the rights to these people, right? Like, you've been there and you're focused on comics. Did you, when they say Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man and stuff, are you like, yeah, this is a great idea, or what?
I think it's weird because I remember the campaigns for building that up and like the things we had to do to inform people. Like, yeah, Iron Man is cool. I didn't grow up as an Iron Man fan.
Sure,
I
no.
barely knew the character.
For me, like I always talk about, right? It was Wizard talking about Demon in the Bottle all the time, where all I knew was like, all right, cool, he isn't a robot and he's an alcoholic. That's what I knew about Iron Man.
Yeah, and I knew that there were great stories, but then I never had that connection to it. And so for me, I needed an education. I think internally, we all had to get on board and figure it out. And like, there's always that like gamble, like, is this going to work?
Yeah.
Because the other movies that have been done are varying levels of success and quality.
Sure.
Like everybody loves X-Men movies or Spider-Man movies or whatever in varying degrees, but this was us making it and being involved with it. So there was trepidation. There was like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. I didn't know that creative team that well at the beginning, and but they had the vision.
Yeah.
And it was like they knew it. And as we went along, it was like, oh, okay, cool. And I remember the screening, the friends, like the Marvel internal screening that was days before the premiere, days before it released in 2008. And we had done promotion, and it was like everything looked great. And I remember the screening. I'm sitting next to My friend Alejandro, who was a comic book editor at the time, he was at Wizard with me. He had made the jump right around the same time I did. He's now an amazing comics writer and editor and stuff. But we're sitting next to each other, and the credits start to roll with that beautiful, the sequence with it's all well designed and
the
everything.
outlines,
the
of
outlines,
yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, they did it.
Yeah.
Like that was incredible. It was like, whoa! Everybody's like crazed. Funny thing, we didn't get the stinger on our screen.
Oh yeah, that came in so late. Remember, the Avengers stuff.
We're Marvel. We didn't get the stinger on our own version of the movie. I had to hear about it online from somebody else.
Then you went and paid the ticket, didn't you? And you saw it. Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
Yeah.
See, that's how it was.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember, again, walking in not knowing anything and like, all right, cool, it's superheroes. I want to support superhero movies. I want more because it was so hard to get them for so long. But yeah, I'll never, ever forget being in that theater and he's just like, I'm Iron Man. And they all jump up and it ended. And I remember turning to, I don't remember if it was my ex-girlfriend or friends or whatever, and just being like, that was incredible. Like I felt like there had been such for superhero movies in general too that I'm gonna protect the identity. I'm gonna do this. Like it was formulaic, and so to get there and not have that be how it was going to be, I think it was such a great glimpse into, as somebody who was raised a DC kid for the most part. Yeah. Clone Saga is what drove me away.
It's fine.
I know. I've come back, but I remember that was like such a great inkling of what the Marvel universe is and why Marvel is special. And obviously with the MCU and then reading more comics than ever and doing all these different things and coming back to it like after Iron Man and stuff like that, learning how that universe works and what makes Marvel special and the fact that it is happening in our world. You know what I mean? I'm going to screw it up so bad right now. You probably know it better than me, right? That the difference between Marvel and DC is that DC is gods coming down to be men, but Marvel is men wrestling with the abilities of God, right? Where it's this idea that like it is New York, it is Chicago, it is San Francisco. Like this is happening there. Like why would Tony Stark try to hide this if he's this boisterous playboy, right? No, he totally owned this, and that's what it would be. Yeah. Whereas Spider-Man, obviously, whole thing is responsibility. He's going to hide that from people because he has a responsibility to protect his family.
Yeah. I mean, look, everything goes, for us at Marvel, goes back to the DNA that Stan, Jack, Steve, Flo, like the original bullpen, what they built. That the idea of the world outside your window, the idea of like these are humans first and foremost. Or the thing that Bill Roseman talks about is like the best Spider-Man stories are Peter Parker stories.
Yeah.
That has always been true, and that will remain true. And that, you think about that. Yeah, of course, a character like Tony Stark is different from a character like Peter Parker. But the reason we connect with them, even though they're very different and we're very different from them, is because they're human and we like recognize those parts of them. I have read DC books and stuff like that. There's some stories I love. My favorite DC story is Superman Secret Identity because it is a very Marvel story.
100%, right?
And
this guy named Clark Kent.
And like the frustration. Oh, man. There was a book we recently put out that reminded me of that. And I'm like, I pulled the issues to read, for the Secret Identity to read, just because it was like, man, this gives me the Jones to read that story again.
Yeah. I think that's why your stories and Marvel stories find that way to resonate and stand out, because it is dealing with that, right? On the Comic Book Club, we talk about everything we've been reading and the pull list and all that jazz, but it's always also the best thing you read this month I pull, right? Mine is Marvel Comics 1000, specifically the story we're calling him Ben, right? Brad Meltzer and Julian hold on. I'm going to get it. Hold on. Totino Tedesco.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
There you
Thank
go.
Very much. My brain locks up when I got to pronounce the words I'm reading. But if you have, like, I saw that on Reddit before I even picked up my copy of 1000. And just, if you haven't picked up Marvel Comics 1000, do. It's what I love the most, where it's like, what's the essence of a character? Let's tell a one-page story about that character. And it's just one page after one page after one page about everybody through the Marvel Universe, right? And that one of Spider-Man saves a pregnant woman. She wants his name, so she'll do the honor of naming the baby after him. And he won't do it. He keeps getting around. Finally, he thinks about it. He goes, Ben. And then it's this cut of all these different parents naming their kids Ben because he saved them. It's like, oh yeah.
I teared up and I immediately sent a message to Brad. I was like, you son of a gun.
Yeah.
Like that's the first thing he's ever done for us. Brad Meltzer.
Really? I didn't know that.
Brad's a friend, and he's a Marvel fan and everything, and he's this amazing author and storyteller, and he's done a ton of work for DC.
Yeah.
This one page is the first thing he's done for Marvel, and
That's
it like
insane.
flipped the table.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's what I mean, like, and that's why I know everybody loves Spider-Man, right? Because he is selfless and it is a responsibility. But even it's on my list right now. Actually, I don't have to do the grow up around. It's on my pull list again from Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 11. Of course, Tom Taylor, friend of the show, who we love to death. But I loved this Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man run, right? Him doing an issue that's all MJ, all from MJ's perspective, right? And like her bubble of being like, right, like. With great power comes great responsibility. It's not Spider-Man, that's Peter, and Peter thinks his responsibility is to everybody, right? And so seeing her take care of him, take care of Aunt May, take care of everybody else in New York when the troll attacks the subway, it's like, yes, hell yeah. It's like, these are the things that resonate, right? And why I love seeing people take 80 years of something, right? And give us more cerebral stories of it, where it doesn't always have to be the fight scene. It doesn't always have to be the punch, right?
Yeah.
It gets to be taking mythos we know and love so well and twisting it and making it something special. Even the other one I had on my list here that DJ Kento did too was the new Spider-Man one, right? From JJ and Henry Abrams. Like,
surprised the heck out of me.
Me too. Where it's like, and I don't want to, like, that one's a what if tale, right? Where it is, a whole bunch of stuff happens, and what does that turn Peter into, and what does it do for Peter's child, and what does it do for Aunt May, and what does it do for It's like, wow, like, I love the fact that, especially now, where we are in 2019, that even if you haven't picked up a comic book ever, you've watched these movies, you get these core values and characters and stuff, that you can go in and pick this up and, okay, cool, I understand where we're jumping off from.
Yeah.
I get it. That's what the power of comics is, let alone Marvel, right? This brand that is so strong and now so everywhere. That's the one thing, I guess. You asked me on one of your shows earlier today, what's it been like, right? Seeing our passion grow into something else, right? Where literally you can't get away from it. What is it like for you as somebody who's been Marvel for so long and represented the company for so long to now not be able to go anywhere and not see something somewhere? We left the show last night we did at the Cartoon Art Museum, which is back in San Francisco and awesome. We did, This Week in Marvel podcast. Walking to dinner, we walked by this wall, and Jen's like, "Oh, look!" And we stopped, and it was Spider-Man, Hulk, and Cap graffiti, like that had been done, and it was all awesome. It was like, jeez Louise,
it's great.
Yeah,
I love it. The MCU has been really great for a number of reasons. Amazing stories with these characters that we love and giving them to new audiences. And that giving them to new audiences has been so fruitful and so important. I talk to so many fans who are reading the comics because of the movies and because we've gotten so big. I love that. I want everyone. There should be no gatekeeping about, like when we were younger, it was a little bit like, there are some people who are like, "Oh, you read comics," and the other people are like, I read comics. You can't read comics." And like, I don't want that. I want everybody to read comics. I want to give comics to everyone. I want everyone to realize why this medium means so much to me, why these stories do, and then you take that and it blossoms out into these amazing video games, and we're doing these incredible podcasts, these fiction podcasts.
Right,
and
the Wolverine one was great.
The Wolverine one. We're doing a Marvels one. And I sat down in the producer's offices, Harry Go and John Cirilli. They played me Ben Grimm, and I was like, oh, that's Ben Grimm.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And I like these stories, I think everyone should experience them. So hopefully it's comics. But if you start with the movies, great. Then check out what else is there.
Are you seeing an uptick in that? Has that happened? I mean, in conjunction with the movies? Like, I don't pay attention to the numbers. Like, is it year-over-year growth of people doing it, or?
I don't look at those numbers either. I mean, we are. I think based on Diamond Comics, it's probably we can have half the market every month.
So you're doing pretty good.
We're doing okay. We're fine. It is probably upticked, but it's just so cool. I've seen it since 2008, 2009. More and more people. I think of people who are frequent listeners to our shows who read comics now because of the movies and because of our podcast.
Yeah.
Like, just straight up, they'll tell me that. And
well, it goes back to, again, the mirror image here of why video games are the way they are now. Of when I was growing up and super into games, my other friends liked games. They didn't play games like I did. They didn't save all their money and wait in line till midnight to get the console. They didn't call Toys R Us looking for the latest wrestling game, right? It's the same way with comics, where it's like, I loved comics, right? I would go there and pour over long boxes, and Dad would get the Wizard World tickets, and we would go for 3 days and just go booth to booth to booth. Like, that's a special person, but it was isolating. Yeah. Because I knew that Poe didn't like video games like I did, or Mike didn't like comics like I did. But I remember the first thing it did when we got AOL and was AOL keyword, right? And it was comics, Marvel comics, DC comics. Like, go to message boards, find it. I remember being so foolish back then, but maybe forward thinking, that when I remember going to marvel.com and being like, I'll be able to read the comics here, right? And it was like, no wallpapers to download. I was like, oh, God dang it. All right, fine.
They did do some digital stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
And they were forward thinking, and they just didn't have the support or the technology.
The infrastructure. Like,
it just
there's
wasn't
no
there.
way. Yeah. Especially with internet. I mean, like, you think about, like, I was last night on my iPad, I was starting to download all the Apple Arcade stuff because the new iOS on iPad's finally there. And it wasn't a thing. Wait, how big is Comixology? And I was like, oh, geez, 25 gigs of comics. I gotta let's trim this down. I still own them. They're in the cloud. I don't need them all local, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And that was the thing of like, we couldn't have done that back in the day.
No.
Yeah.
You're talking about video games. I think another funny like mirror thing. I was a Genesis kid.
Yeah,
you know,
hell yeah.
I know you were a Master System
and
kid,
Genesis, yeah.
But
I was Sega
first, but I wasn't a Master. I came in.
You
at
started
the
with Genesis. That was a smart move.
I had an NES, but then I went to the Genesis, and I remember like the box and playing
like so cool.
Samurai Showdown, playing that. Genesis had cool games, and I have still the monstrosity that is the Genesis
32X,
32X, like.
Did you get the
Fire
classic?
Hazard.
Did you get the classic Genesis?
Not yet. No, I want one.
They did it. I don't know. Well, before you leave, we should check if it's still on Tim's desk, because not only did they do the Genesis, of course, then they did all the pile-on stuff. We have that all in there of like all the stuff of just make it look like it used to.
Why don't I just pull mine out of the closet and plug it in?
Right, exactly.
Take 3 massive ACs and put them in the wall and hope that
put them into one power brick and hope nothing explodes or goes poorly. Yeah. So now, completely left turn.
Great.
Tell me this MySpace story. How did you find you found these half brothers and sisters? Mm-hmm. Did you know they were out there before? Did you go to MySpace to look for them? Or you're like, oh, this music's good. Wait a second. Who is this person? Am I related to Tom?
I'm listening to these hot tunes. Tom, help me out. I knew that I had siblings. So, my father was from Colombia. My mom is like an Irish German lady from Queens. And they had, my mom got involved when she was very young. It wasn't the best relationship. She had me when she was 23 and like got a divorce and like got out because it was abusive and dangerous. Yeah. So we left Florida, Miami, where I was born, when I was 5 weeks old and came up here. He basically, so he didn't have to pay alimony, gave full rights and like for her to like get us away.
Wash his hands of it. Yeah.
And so he goes off on his own life. We go off on our own lives. And I may have met him like twice in my life. Got like 2 birthday cards or whatever it is. I think he got me Super Mario Brothers 3 at one point.
So not a completely terrible person.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh no, I'm fucking around.
No. But and then somehow because he died when I was a child. It's weird because I remember the phone call. My mom called my friend Michael's house when I was a child.
How young? Ballparkish?
Must have been 10 or 11 because my mom called to tell me that he died or he was dead, and I was over at Michael's house playing Spider-Man. Genesis Spider-Man. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I don't really know him. Can I go back and play Spider-Man? And Mom was like, okay, as long as you're okay. Were you really okay? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it messed me up a little bit down the road, and like whatever. Everybody's got stuff,
of course. And I think in general, just not having a relationship probably also compounds.
But my mom is the most amazing woman, so it's fine. And I had great grandparents and uncle and everything. So, but I over the years found out, he had a child before me.
Okay.
Who in Colombia. And then 2 children after me.
Okay.
The woman in Colombia I've never tracked down. I think I know her name. I'd have to look at some paperwork or whatever. But I was like, I want to know what these other Penagoses are all about. So I go on MySpace and I found out from my mom what their names are, Vanessa and Derek. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's look them up. And I find them. And like, this is weird. And like, I look at the picture.
Did you like do like a whole like it's gonna take all night? Oh, there they are.
Kind of. It was like this, and this was like 2006 or 7, and I found them, and I just sent a note and like was just honest. Was like, hey, I think we have the same father. This is my story. I think we're siblings.
Yeah.
I know this is probably odd, but just want to say hello. And then we built they were a little like freaked out at first.
Did they know about you?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I see them every once in a while now. We have a good relationship now. Their birthdays are in September.
Or it just happened.
Yeah, and like I have a nephew from my brother, and so like I sent him some comics, and he like watches YouTube and sees me on there, and like it's bizarre because I grew up as a single child, and now having this that part of the family, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You see him often? Is it like, are you like bros, or is it just like, this is cool? Like once in a while,
It's cool. Like,
okay.
I went and we were taking a cruise in January and left out of Miami. So I was like, hey, we're going to be in Miami. You guys want to get dinner?
Nice.
Had an amazing night just hanging out and talking.
That's awesome.
It was really good.
What do you think about, your dad not being there for you? What does that do to you wanting to be a dad?
I mean, it's been a big thing. For me, my wife and I have been together 10 years. Our 10-year anniversary is the first day of New York Comic Con. She has
what a way to celebrate.
She has a panel because she just put out a book, Rebel Girls. Buy it now. Elizabeth Keenan. And she's on a panel. I'm working from 8:30 to 7 or whatever it is. So like, our 10th anniversary is going to be, it is what it is. But we've been together a long time. We wanted children, and we didn't think about it at first because it was just like, all right, let's just live our lives.
Yeah.
And then we had difficulty, having children, went through a lot. And so now we're on the process of adoption.
Yeah.
And we're 2 years into waiting for the call. Like,
yeah,
literally every time my phone rings, I'm like, is it the agency saying here's a child? We got really close in January, and that was just like the highest high, the lowest low, because it didn't work out. So now I'm like, I want to go on vacation because I haven't been on a proper vacation in a long time. Even the cruise in January was a day of work.
Yeah.
And so I want to go on vacation, but that call could come in, and like if I'm in Iceland or whatever, I don't want to screw anything up.
Yeah, no,
But
totally.
I very much want to be a dad. I had an amazing grandfather who, and strong uncle, and like just great family structure. So I'm ready.
You've been public about the adoption stuff.
Yeah.
And I've known about it obviously for a long time because I remember, I want to say probably 2 years ago at Comic-Con, you had tweeted something on that day of just like, the final things are in motion for this to happen, for us to get on the list. And I remember congratulating you and you being like, thank you so much. It might not be like that though, but it might be. We don't know. And it was that thing. And so how do you keep your spirits up? How do you guys keep doing that and going that way?
It's tough. I mean, you got to live your life. That's that's what they tell you. Just do what you do. Try not to think about it, which is an impossibility.
Of course not. Yeah, as you talk about every phone call could be it.
Yeah.
It affects your vacations.
Yeah, like you can't build out a space for the child because then you're just driving yourself nuts.
Oh my gosh.
Because like the baby room, like you can't do that stuff like you would when you have a due date.
Right.
When we got to the point where we were told like a family has chosen you, like we had a meeting and all this other stuff, and like you get to that point, and we went with my mom and we got a big stroller, and it's like all this stuff, and then like days later things changed and their decision changed, which is their right to do.
Of course.
It's fine. I hope that baby has the best life, but it's like, oh,
I can't
give me a
imagine.
damn baby.
What do I have to do to get this baby?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome you're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it's such a process.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
You live your life.
Important things
more
sometimes
tattoos.
take time. Yeah, I just got Mothra a couple months ago.
Very nice. Very nice. That's why you want Godzilla in review so bad.
That's right. Godzilla review. Let's do it. I can't be here for it. Sorry.
I was gonna say you can't come to. Yeah, I'll miss all 30 episodes, but it'd be cool if you guys did it for me. I'd love to hear. And I'm sure you just every day you text me like you guys got it wrong.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why this isn't
Yeah.
where it should be.
You messed up. Tell me more about why Anguirus is the best friend. Anguirus is the spiky guy who starts out as Godzilla's enemy and then becomes his good
As
buddy.
most spiky boys do. They start off as the enemy, and then
Yeah.
they go somewhere else, right?
Yep.
One more thing about your wife before we move on.
Yes.
I thought this was the coolest story you had ever told, and I saw you put up a photo of it a long time ago, but I didn't understand the context. When you said "I do," Thor said it was okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So when we got married, we were married. It was a rainy day, and we were in this barn. And I think my producer Judy knows the story. She's heard it a million times. She's in.
Sorry,
the room.
Judy.
And so we were getting married, and like they're doing the vows, and do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?
Mm-hmm.
And I said I do, and then it's like thunder. And I go, what? And it is like this big, there's a photo of this big reaction shot for me. And the room is like, everybody's blown out of their minds because just that moment, the heavens shake when I say I do. It's fun. And
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's almost like the Thor's like, you got it, kid.
So you can never get away from Marvel, no matter how hard you try.
That's fine.
Yeah. Ryan?
Yes.
Now's a good time for us to check in with our sponsors. And just like that, we're here. Hey, Comic Book Club kids, remember, you don't have to worry about it when it goes up. We're jumping into the friend zone. This, of course, is where people can write in to patreon.com/kindoffunny with their questions. Of course, since this is a joint episode with the Comic Book Club, not only do we have the We Have Cool Friends questions, we have the Comic Book Club questions all ready to go.
It's like a great team up.
It is a great team up.
Yeah.
It's a good crossover. Jericho writes in and says, being behind the scenes like you are and knowing how secretive Marvel is about the movies and their comics, do you also struggle with keeping secrets in the comic book world? What is your biggest secret? Don't worry, we won't tell anybody.
So this is I love telling this story. So the first meeting I had when I was at Wizard.
Yeah.
So the Wizard 2003, right? One of the biggest comics going at the time was Batman Hush.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, incredible, great story. And when I start there, it's like midway through, somewhere in there. So the first meeting I go to, first week at Wizard, maybe it might have been the first or second day. We sit down, we're in like the lobby area. There's like 5 of us, and then we're just chit-chatting, and then we start getting into it, planning out coverage for future issues. And Andy Serwin, who was one of the editors there at the time, he starts talking about stuff, and they start talking about Batman, and they get to the reveal of who Hush is.
Right.
It's like 6-7 months before. Probably
First
longer
issue
because
ever
it was
drops.
a little delayed at the end.
Yeah.
Love you, Jim, but yeah, it was a little delayed at the end. And so they reveal who Hush is and hit out the last beats of the story. And I'm like, guys, what the hell? I'm reading the story. And he goes, shut the fuck up. Everything you ever love will be spoiled for you from now on. Deal with it. And that's what Andy says to me. And I go, okay. All
I
right.
can never enjoy anything again.
No, and it's the opposite.
Really?
It is everything can get spoiled, but I deal with it. I've learned to just love the art, the story, the journey, everything about it. And there's still surprises, but
Sure.
like every Marvel movie, every Marvel TV show, every Marvel video game, every Marvel comic book, everything we do is spoiled for me. There are little bits and pieces and surprises that, but I now have this deeper appreciation for everything we do and like the way we get there and the technical ability of all the amazing artists who put this together. And that, I think that moment was like that slap in the face that I needed at that time to help me deal with knowing all this stuff all the time as someone who is so closely connected to it as a fan. That said, don't let spoilers get in your life. If you can avoid spoilers, like
it's the
avoid
same thing
them.
with us, right? In games, where it's this, you know, obviously you do a demo, right? I went and played 2 hours of The Last of Us, right? So I know how those go, and like obviously we have plenty of friends who make games who you talk to about story, and they do say things. They don't, you do know where a reveal is going to be or what it's going to be, but you enjoy it for a different reason.
Yeah. And so I think I have all the secrets in my head, one way, shape, or form. Like we just at Marvel, we do an editorial retreat. The publishing group does an editorial retreat where CB Cebulski, who is our editor-in-chief or whomever, brings in 10 plus writers, all the editorial team, some schmoes like me who get to hang out and listen.
Just
and
listen and have fun.
And like think about. I do my old school wizard thing.
Sure.
Think about our coverage. I wrote 24,000 words of notes at the retreat. I have all those 24,000 words of Marvel comic secrets for the next 2 years. And, like it's those things that are so important to keeping them locked up in here, because I'm not going to be the one to mess up the amazing stories that our people are telling or hurt you guys who are listening and watching, because I think that is a hurtful thing. I don't want someone to get spoiled on something that can have such a great impact on them emotionally or just for fun.
This is something you'd think I would know, but I don't actually in the digital age for comics. For like IGN, who covers Marvel Comics, and the Joshua will put up exclusives and stuff like that. Is it the same thing anymore, where you have different people coming to the studio to talk about what's coming in the months, or is it, since it's digital and quicker now, easier to blast them a preview copy, I guess, a few days before and be like, there's going to be a big thing and we need to talk about it?
I think it's a mix. We do work with a bunch of different outlets and publishers. I'm not on the PR team.
I know it's not a 100% fair question.
We have amazing PR team like Tim Chang and folks like that, and so. They have ways that they do it, and there are trusted people. It's difficult. We'd like to keep those secrets inside the building as much as we can, but there's loose lips everywhere. People find out things and they share things, and you're like, gosh, damn it, stop that.
I remember when I got so excited and I retweeted the first time Andre Roux put up the kind of funny logo on his sweatshirt, and I tweeted out. You tweeted back. You're like, that's a panel from a comic that comes out tomorrow. And I'm like, how'd I get it? I don't know. Some kid tweeted it at me.
Yeah. How'd they get that?
I don't know. I
don't know. I love Andre.
He's the best.
Just
right?
the best.
Yeah. He's going to be at New York Comic Con. He was like, can we finally meet? And I'm like, I'm not coming this year. I'm not doing
I want to meet him. I want to say hi. I love him.
Andre
can I give 2 shout outs?
Of course.
Right now?
Are they about books or people?
People.
Okay. Because your next question is about shouting out books.
We'll shout out books in a second. Tim Dillon, who's on the Marvel television marketing team. He's a big fan, kind of funny. And he's like, I'm jealous you're going to be on Comics Guy. I'm like, we'll talk about you, Timmy.
Don't worry about
it. So Timmy, and then Luis, who's on our production team in New York, is a best friend, went to your last meetup in New York. And so he's pissed that I'm here. I'm here without him.
He's like, how can I get in? How can I come do anything? You're like, no, don't worry about it.
Trust me, he's doing some fun stuff. He's working on our video game stuff in New York.
Oh, then he's having a great time
on the promotion production side.
Tell me about what Insomniac's working on, huh? What's going on with that one? Yeah, exactly. Brandon Jackson Shorts writes in and says, what's the best thing about Marvel that isn't getting enough love? Is there a book that I should be reading, an artist or writer I should be following, a game that isn't already big that I should keep an eye out for, or a show I should be watching or getting excited about?
That's a
huge question, right? Because I'm sure there's a thing for every one of those. What book isn't getting enough love in your opinion?
It's hard for me to know what is or isn't getting enough love, because there's books that I said. So I do a show called Marvel's The Pull List, or Marvel's Pull List, every week, where we go through every single Marvel comic, and I tell people why they should check them out. For me, it's a very important thing. I won't tell you I love something if I don't love it.
Sure.
I can always find something good in a comic. Man, that lettering was great. And if I don't love it, I'm not going to tell you that comic is great, you should buy it. I don't think that's genuine. I will never do it. I will tell someone about a book.
When you walk that line, are you ever critical of it? Of like, I didn't like this book at all.
I try not to be critical, because I think we have relationships with these people.
Sure.
We're
internal.
There's a lot for me, and we're not a critical show. We're not a critical. That's not my role. I'm more of like, I want to tell you why it's cool, not be a critic about it.
Sure. 100%. 100%.
So, I think about these things, and so in one of our most recent episodes, we had Immortal Hulk and Runaways out the same week, and we do 2 picks of each. Myself and Tucker, my co-host, we each pick 2 books. We're like, these are the 2 books we believe in the most, we love the most.
Gotcha.
That these you have to read, and I said, Immortal Hulk. Some weeks, sometimes I'll pick it, sometimes I won't. Just assume that it's a guarantee.
Okay.
Every time an issue of Immortal Hulk comes out, it is without question a book. If you are not reading it, you're doing something wrong in comics.
And this is the horror one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing for Runaways. The Runaways comic right now is without question better than 90% of any fiction out there. It is so good the storytelling that is being done by Rainbow Rowell and André Genoulet and everybody else on that book is mind-boggling. And it's really like there's subtle things that they do with acting. Doing what I do now so much is like talking about the language of comics, and acting in comics is such an important thing. You don't notice it until you notice it.
Yep.
Like, you have a face that just doesn't make any sense. When you see something, what Andre and what before him, Chris Anka, who I know is
a bum.
Come on.
No, we love Chris. He's a kind of funny best friend too. He's coming back to the comic club soon.
Good.
Or no, I think both we have cool friends in comic club. Doesn't matter. Go.
There you go. What they're doing as artists in telling stories. There's a 2-page spread in one of the issues of Runaways where Carolina goes to therapy, and it is, I think it's like 16 panels over 2 pages, all straight on. So it's 4, 4, 4, 4, and all straight on of her, and you just see her in the chair. It is one of the most riveting 2-page sequences in comics of the last year. It is so good, and because of her body language and the subtleties of her movement, her face, the emotion, the dialogue, like Runaways, go read it right now. It's on Marvel Unlimited. Greg, I got some codes for Marvel Unlimited. I will give them to you. Give it to who is this question from?
That question right there was from, I scrolled past. Oh, it was Brandon Jackson Shorts.
Okay. Give them a Marvel Unlimited code. We'll get that afterwards, and I got a bunch more for you to give to the listeners and the viewers. Read Runaways, please. Read it. It's so friggin' good. It hurts.
Now here's one, and I don't know if this is the exact same, so stick with me.
Yeah.
Katie writes in and says, "What run would you recommend for someone looking to get into a Marvel series other than Spider-Man or Star Wars? Outside of the MCU and Spider-Man, the only Marvel superhero stuff I've experienced has been reading one-shots. Is there a specific character, or better yet, a specific run with a great character, or a specific run with great character moments that you'd recommend as a starting point?"
Sure. So this question is always a difficult one for me because I want to have a dialogue.
You have the follow-up questions.
Yeah, all right, so what kind of stories do you like? Yeah, MCU stuff is in there, but like, if you were to sit down and pick a book up, what book would that be? If you were going to go watch a movie, what would that movie, like, what kind of stories do you want to hear or do you want to read? I think that's an important thing because we make comics and we make all these different things, but there's a horror, like you said, Immortal Hulk is a horror book.
Right, completely different.
It is terrifying and disturbing and beautiful and messed up and action-packed and funny and dark and weird, but it is a horror book. So if you don't like horror,
doesn't matter. This book won't work for you, right?
It might not be the book for you. It is messed up, and I love it. At the most recent issue, I don't know if it's out yet, this is not a big spoiler, his Hulk's face is melted off, has been melted off, and it's melting in his hand, and he takes the melting flesh and throws it at a bad guy, and it melts that guy's face.
That's awesome.
That's Immortal Hulk.
Yeah, that sounds rad.
Read Immortal Hulk.
All right.
But like, Runaways, I think, is a family drama that is wrapped up in teenagers and superheroes, but it's a family drama. So if you like family drama, that's going to be a cool thing. You have mentioned Tom Taylor's work on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man or All New Wolverine. I think that, like...
All New Wolverine, great jumping off point.
Oh my gosh, yes, so good in there. I think, there's Fantastic Four right now by Dan Slott, and a whole bunch of people is incredible. I think there's a whole new mess of X-Men that is the X-Men book starting with X-Men #1, or you can read House of X and Powers of 10. And that is sort of the perfect jumping on point to see the possibilities that comics can give you.
Okay.
And it's just big and weird and fun. So there's lots. Hit me up on Twitter. Tell me a little bit more about what kind of stories you love, and we'll go from there.
Love it. I love it. H&M on Twitter, but you know that already.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, okay. Mitch Krassen writes in to patreon.com/kindafunny to be part of the comic club just like you can. It says, "Hey, Ryan, what are the coolest trends that you see in the current superhero space? What do you see your competitors doing that inspires you in your work?"
That's a great question, Mitch. So first, I try to read other books. Like, I don't have time.
No, if you're reading every Marvel book every week, let alone doing your job, the podcast, this show, that thing.
17 to 25 books a week. Jeez. And I'm an insane person in how I deal with, how I do my job. So Marvel's Pull List, I have a great co-host, Tucker Marcus. He comes in, he's he's got a great mind.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any notes. He knows what he wants to talk about. Boom. I can't do that because I've got all these different things. I write 5,000 words for myself.
Yeah.
You saw my script for This Week in Marvel.
And it's like a script of what you not that you're sticking to a script. It's what you want to say, and you don't want to miss anything.
And I have to write it as if I'm publishing it as a piece, because that's the way my brain works. So I do that for every single book that comes out. So it's like, 50 to 300 words per book.
Yeah.
For every book that we put out. So suffice to say, I read a lot and I put a lot into these things. I don't have enough time. Like, I just had to give away a stack of DC books that I didn't get to. Stuff that I really, really wanted to read, like Sam Humphrey's work, which I love Sam's work, stuff that Brian's been doing over at DC, different things, like just wanting to catch up. So I unfortunately don't have a chance to catch up on all their stuff. But I do look at, stuff that, like...
What's the trend you see at Marvel? Because again, you've been there long enough to know the trends as they come.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, that's a great question. It's tough. A trend we see, I think, I see a lot of characters pop up at times, and like, it's weird to see like who's in the zeitgeist of our creators' minds, unintentionally or intentionally. Like, a villain will show up. Nightmare has been showing up in numerous books in the last like 6 months. I'm like, what is happening? Are our guys not?
Why is
guys
everyone suddenly caring about this?
Not sleeping, and they're doing Nightmare not as a joke, but like a really cool, messed up villain. Whether it's in Doctor Strange or in these other books, like, I don't know about trends. I wish I had a better answer for that one. I just, I think we'll see how Jonathan Hickman's X-Men stuff affects other people and the way they want to tell stories. I think that could be a cool trend.
Eric C. writes in with our final question from the friend zone and says, with you being so familiar with Marvel, how is it for you to see Jonathan Hickman seemingly uproot the foundation of the X-Men damn near every week? Does it make you excited for the future of Marvel Comics, as the fans seem to be? And while you're here, this is me now, Greg.
Yeah.
Can you encapsulate what is happening right now?
Yes. All right.
What's the basic idea of House of X?
House of
House of 10. Sorry, I said
House of X and Powers of 10.
Yeah. I combined.
Sometimes they call them Hoxpox.
Hoxpox.
The tricky thing is I don't want to spoil it for people.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful about that, because it does what was it, Eric?
Eric C.
Eric brought up, like, this is feels like a big change. And it does. It does feel like a big change for the X-Men. It is reorganizing their place in the Marvel universe, giving them a way to say we are planting a flag, literally and figuratively, in the ground, saying we are here. This is the new normal. Deal with it, or else. Yeah. And that is because of a character named Moira McTaggart, who is I do This Week in Marvel history.
Yeah.
Part of the This Week in Marvel podcast, where I look at everything that's happened across our history in a given week. And so recently, Moira McTaggart's first appearance was it came up. Her first appearance, she is brought in as Professor Xavier's housekeeper for the mansion. And in the first issue, the Nagari demons also appear for the first time. She runs into the fight where all the X-Men are fighting horrible demons with a shotgun, and she's like, I'm a blast ya! And she's got this Scottish brogue, and she comes with a shotgun, and Banshee's like, no. But she's actually, what we learn later on is she's a brilliant biologist and biochemist and all this other stuff. One of the most brilliant minds in the Marvel universe. In House of X and Powers of 10, we find out that she is actually a mutant. Her mutant power is that she goes through her life, she dies. When she comes back, it is like the beginning of that cycle again. So she is now, her second life, she remembered everything from her first life, and it is back when she was in the womb, and comes out and has to then move forward. And so the story hinges on what she knows and what she's seen, what she does, and who she tells. She tells Magneto and Professor X. And the story sort of blossoms out from there, seeing the different lives that she leads, and the different paths for mutants. And so they need to figure out the best path because they've seen the ones that lead to mutant death and destruction and horror. And so it sounds crazy and radical, but this is X-Men. This is what the X-Men are. Part of why I love this is it is the X-Men story. It is them surviving, trying to survive. You know, Matt Rosenberg, who was on This Week of Marvel with us, talking about the X-Men weren't like a bright, shiny super team. They were fighting for their lives every second. And so this is the X-Men saying, we have been fighting for our lives, and we need to do something crazy and radical, or we are dead. And I've heard Jonathan tell his long-term plans for this. And it is amazing. And it is the most X-Men, the most Marvel story, while still being crazy and radical and bananas. And try not to get a spoil for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you did a great job of selling it, and everybody needs to start picking it up.
I hope so. And it ends real soon. I have the last issue, Powers of 10, number 6, in my bag to read tonight or tomorrow.
Barrett, steal his bag!
Barrett, how dare you?
Sorry.
I'm gonna read it, and I've been holding off.
Sure, yeah.
But now
you find that right moment.
Yeah, but we're starting off Dawn of X, X-Men number 1, and a whole bunch of new books. Like, I want to talk about it, but we can't yet.
We'll come back. You have to come back. And
I will 100% come back.
Ryan, thank you for being one of our cool friends.
Yeah, thank
you
you
for being a best friend too. You listen to just about everything. It seems I hear you all the time.
I like the things you do.
You're a good man. If you want to keep up with you, where can they?
Agent M on Twitter and Instagram. I do 2 main podcasts for Marvel. Flagship show, This Week in Marvel, which I've been doing for 8 years. We have never missed a week.
That's consistency right there.
Literally, holidays, everything. We've never missed a week. So that's a really important show for me. That comes out every Friday. We do some bonus episodes. We just had Mega Ran on and MC
Mega.
Lars. So he's a best friend. He's a cool friend of yours. We do that show. Some big news hopefully coming for that show real soon. The other show, the comic book-based show, is called Marvel's Pull List.
Yep.
We do that every Tuesday. So the idea is
great preview. You're
going to go to the comic shop or go to Comixology, your Marvel app, whatever it is, on Wednesday. We got you ready. Here's what you need to read. Here's the characters, and like, hey, I'm a fan of Mysterio. I didn't know Mysterio was going to be in this book. Guess I got to pick that up too. Give us your money. That's what we do.
Unabashedly.
Oh yeah, come on. And also on the video version of Marvel's Pull List, we announce some books once a month and tell you some stuff that's going to happen. So we have some cool stuff coming.
Right.
I do a show called Earth's Mightiest Show. You were on that.
Yeah.
That's on our YouTube and Marvel.com and all that other stuff. I host all kinds of random things.
You're
for
very
Marvel.
busy.
Yeah, we just did a 9-week long tournament for Marvel Contest of Champions. Which was real fun. I co-hosted that. There's plenty more to come.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, this is We Have Cool Friends. Each and every Monday, we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing because they're cool people. If you like that, go to youtube.com/kindafunny, subscribe there, listen on podcast services around the globe. However, don't go anywhere. If you are already supporting us on patreon.com/kindafunny, you should be watching this. It's ad-free there. And we're about to do just the required reading for Greg's Comic Book Club. Issue number 19 is what I said, right?
Yes.
Yep, nailed it. It was We Stand on Guard. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to have a conversation about We Stand on Guard, you still have a chance to read it. What I didn't prep you for, of course, every guest on the Comic Book Club picks the thing we'll read for the next month.
What?
So you need to come up with, while we start talking about We Stand on Guard, what it's going to be. Patreon.com/kindafunny. You can click over and watch us talk about that right now and pick next required reading unless you're already here. Thank you so much. No need to cut, Barrett. Now it's the Comic Book Club. We're talking about We Stand on Guard. And I got you.
What have people picked?
I'm not gonna. We have to talk about that right now.
Okay.
We can talk about We Stand on Guard,
All right.
of course.
Yeah.
This was your required reading, written by Brian K. Vaughan, of course, and art by Steve
Scroce.
Yeah, I knew that one beyond me.
I asked. Yeah, I asked Ricky Purdon, who another former Wizard guy.
There it is.
Who also a former DC guy.
Oh.
He is our director of talent at Marvel, and I had to ask him the pronunciation of Steve's last name because he doesn't do a lot of work for us these days. I had to find out.
We Stand on Guard, of course, set in the far-flung future here, where America gets attacked. Turns out it was the Canadians, or so we say it is. Dun, dun, dun. And then it's a war with Canada, where America is just kicking their butt for a while. And we get to go in and have this basically character piece, right, with these freedom fighters based around one redheaded woman as she goes through it. What did you think?
I loved it.
Had you read it before?
No.
Okay.
such a dum-dum. So I bought the issues and they were in my comics, my Comixology.
Nice.
I bought them 6-8 months ago, whatever it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
And then I didn't realize I bought the issues because I hadn't read them.
Yeah.
So I just went into after you text me, I was like, okay, cool. I went into the app, I bought the trade.
Yeah.
So now I have the trade and the issues. You're welcome.
That happens to me more than I'd like to admit that it happened.
Putting a little money in BKV and Steve's pockets.
It's about time somebody did.
Yeah, right?
You know what I
Like,
mean?
they
They're
need
struggling out there.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't read it before. I'm a huge fan of Steve's. Of course, a huge fan of BKV's.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Steve's art is bonkers good.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting one because I was gathering the reader reviews that we put in from the Comic Book Club participation thread, putting them in here, and it seemed mixed. Like, I usually people, and this was a blind pick where I know BKV as a writer. I don't know him as a person.
Sure.
I loved the premise. I was like, let's take a shot. And it's only 6 issues. Like, what do we have to lose, kind of thing. And so I read the reviews from it. And I was like, oh man, it's lukewarm. And so then when I jumped in and read it, I was like, I loved this. I thought this is what I want out of comic books, right? Of like, hey, guess what? Here's this weird idea for a story, and here's the entire story. There's no cliffhanger. There's no this. It's not that. It's like, what is this very centralized idea going to happen? What are the reverberations from it?
Yeah, it's a what if, right?
Yeah.
That's, what we were talking about earlier. What if this happened? What is this story, and what's the path that it takes?
Yeah.
And it's like, you could, in this world, you could tell a billion different stories.
Sure.
Parts of it feel too real. Parts of it feel very fantasy.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, that's comics.
Right. Yeah.
And
those are the best kind of comics, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. I think BKV does character stuff so well. So you have those relationships, like the small band of people, you get connected to them. The dog, I got so nervous about the dog. I was like, oh please, oh please, oh please, oh please. Like, I don't deal well with animals getting hurt in any media. There was a book that I think Marguerite Bennett wrote it, and I was like, oh, this looks cool. It's talking animals. And then I opened it up, and a tiger had a sword stuck through its head. And I was like, nope, never gonna read that, even though I want to.
Yeah. How are you gonna deal with Last of Us Part 2?
What?
A lot of you don't have to. Neil's saying about killing these dogs, but I killed a lot of dogs in the demo because they were coming for me.
That.
It was me or them. It was me or them.
I don't wanna
you
do
can get
that.
around it apparently, so you don't have to, but it's gonna make it tougher.
But back to this comic.
Yes, back to this comic book.
I thought the character beats were really cool.
Yeah.
There's stuff. You've got, of course, this hard-nosed American. There's the fun twist and like all this other stuff. I liked it.
Yeah.
And for me, a big part of it was Steve's art, because that is,
I really like the art.
as a comic book guy, that's an attraction. He, to me, is an attraction, and unfortunately, he doesn't do a lot like in the medium right now, 'cause doesn't need to be honest. He works in Hollywood. He does storyboards for movies, I believe. He can do, like, he's fine.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to come to comics. But when he comes to comics, to me, that's like, ring the bell, here he is. Like, watch this. And you see his cinematic moments. Like, there's a shot of, what was Amber?
Yeah.
Amber silent. And, like blood splattered on her face, looking straight ahead. And I was like, that's a moment.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And that was the thing, is I think you had a couple of those in the book that really played out well. And I loved it when, the freedom fighters are bickering over what to do with the soldier they've captured, right? And they're like, oh, you have to kill her to prove it. And they're like, no, why would we do that? And then while they're stalking her, she just goes, you know what I mean? Like, all right, let's move on.
Yeah.
And in the same way when they're inside the, Metal Gear for all intents and purposes, right? And it's like, he's saying to shoot, we have to shoot. And she's finally the one who's like, shoot. Like, and granted, they don't. But it was like that moment of, like, seeing how much the cause meant to her, right? And it's not even their cause, just the cause of stop invading Canada, get out of our country, stop doing all these different things.
Yeah.
I thought that was all really, really cool.
Yeah. Did your wife read this?
No, I did myself such a disservice I was gathering it and then reading it at work. So I was reading it here and I'm like, oh, there's a character who only speaks French in this book. Like, what if I had Jen next to me and I could just, what is he saying, babe? Because like, I'm piecing it together and it's helpful that the characters are like, no, English. Like, they're yelling at him about it. It was good.
Yeah.
Arvel wrote in. So, of course, the participation thread on patreon.com/kindafunny. It says, I tried to like this book, but ultimately I did not get what this book wants to be. A book about a hypothetical war between the USA and Canada. A book about resistance fighters fighting for their freedom against enemy oppressors. A book about personal revenge of a small child that grew up in a war. And to be honest, I still don't know after reading it. I thought it was all those things.
Yeah, why does it have to be one thing?
Yeah. And
I think, I think that's what BKV does in his stories. You look at Saga, it's not one thing. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's a family story. If you had to distill it down,
There's so many
but
narratives, though.
So,
and then,
right.
The war
like then you
between
start
the planets.
you just the freelancer.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like all
The question, the answer.
yeah. It's been a
It's
little
been a
while.
while. They're on break, so I'm like, I'll read it all when I get back into
Yeah.
it or whatever.
You know, like you
The will.
the will.
There it is.
You have like you can have all these different things and balance around. And I think, yeah, of course, at the core, for me, it was a personal story of Amber and what this all means to her, and like those moments at the beginning where her family is killed, and like that horrifying thing, her father like talking to her brother and all this other stuff. I was like, yeah, this is her horrifying journey, and she's not a hero.
No.
To me, she's your protagonist, but she's not a hero.
Right, 100%. Yeah, and I think that's when these kind of stories get interesting, right? When there are gray areas to it, and nobody's right, nobody's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I think even when you're talking about The American, right, where she's talking to that senator, that's the story worth going with, and he's like, no, that's the thing, and it's like, even she's getting played by this system of what's real and what's fake. But speaking of horrors in the book, right? Adam Matthew Inc. writes in with his review and says, "We stand on guard's artwork is amazing. Steve delivers a more refined, frank, quietly style with composition that delivers on impactful moments of scale and terror. The story of America taking over Canada over fresh water is strange, but it's mostly background noise to smaller moments of horror and dismay with our characters. The one moment of this book that truly stands out is the torture scene. The never-ending loop between being burned alive while simultaneously drowning was insane. Only for Victoria McFadden to never give in. Then the American antagonist, ma'am, to introduce McFadden's father in a horrific turn of events."
I hated that, which I in the way that like
You're supposed to.
yeah, not like, oh, I don't like this book. It was like a visceral reaction, like that is cruelty upon cruelty.
Yeah, right. Another level of it. And I thought that was what was so interesting, to watch her break immediately, be done with it. And then on top of that, to have the American apologize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought that was actually another thing of what we're talking about, where it's like, she's not Amanda Waller evil. You know what I mean? They're trying to win a war. And like, however she got on this path, she does believe, like the false flag narrative, and also like there's two different belief structures happening here.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, that's like, it's rare that you see the bad guys in a book portrayed like that and have a human moment. I'm like, sorry, we had to put you through that.
Yeah.
Colton M. Davis says, "I think my feelings for this book can simply be summed up as meh. I felt myself being forced into continuing to read, as I just wasn't interested in any of this book aside from the giant robots that we saw very little of. I think it's a book built on a very interesting world and had the beginnings of a good story, but in the end, I felt like I only just watched the season finale of the second season of a show that went on for 4 seasons. So much stuff happened before the book, and so much will happen after, and I don't have more than a small inkling of either."
See, I like coming in media res on a lot of things, where like you get a little bit, but you don't need all this. Like it's color that is just there, but it doesn't inform the core characters we're following. Like it's just a little bit of those things. I was like, great.
I'm personally the same way, right? Where I didn't need to see everything about it. I didn't need to have it. What is this going to play out now? In the American-Canadian War, nor how did we get there? I liked it just being a snapshot. I liked it, just dropping into this world. Like we've done so many books on the Comic Book Club. I think of like Low, where it's like, oh man, this is so cool and interesting, but it keeps going. And it's like, that's great. I don't want to commit to that much. I can't commit to that much with the amount of time I have, the books I want to read, all these different things, to toss another one in there that way. I'd prefer it be contained. Like, this is the story we want to tell here, and to the point, they could always come back, right, and do something else. They could come in and do, hey, this is the update. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's different ways around it.
Yeah.
Who do I want to end with? You ever do that? You make some music out of that?
No, my producers will kill me.
Oh, okay.
They don't like the little bits of noise.
Oh, no?
Should I kill Greg then?
No, no, Barrett.
I'll come after you, Greg. I will.
It's time for Barrett to take the throne.
Oh, my God. No. Everybody's saying the kind of same thing, but I'll let Katie end it, who was talking about Katie earlier. I started off expecting to read a sci-fi story about a political situation evolving into the U.S. invading Canada. Instead, what I got was a humanizing tale about a suicide bomber. It used a fictional setting, parentheses, that they didn't have much time to explore, to tell a very real story. And although it wasn't very subtle, it was still an interesting read. Although I think it would have made a great extended story. I realized they were telling one vignette and thought it was written the right length for what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I could add more.
That's
Sure.
always my thing. Is like, I'd rather you leave me wanting more than have the book or what. Like, I think a TV series that go on 3 seasons too long, right? Or like, the commitment of network television is like 22 episodes. It's like, oh, stop! Like, I don't need this much.
Yeah. If I can, like a game now, give me a game that's 8 to 10 hours with a great story.
Perfect.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I want it. Like
oh,
this. This was what, 5 issues, 6 issues?
6 issues.
I was loving it. I was like, wow, I'm done already.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm in the middle right now of reading every issue of One Piece.
Oh my god.
My God.
I just passed 500
Why?
because it's awesome.
Like I love like
I've never
don't-
watched it.
I've never read it. I've only watched the show.
I'm like 100 and change into the anime. Like I put it on the background.
Yeah.
The manga is so good, and Dragon Ball is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But like I can pop off 4 chapters of One Piece on the way to work because it's so fast. Like boom, 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 and then their Shonen Jump app, so good.
Oh wow. All right.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Ryan,
Yes.
what are you gonna tell us to read?
Well, before
for the
that,
next- okay, sorry.
I would just want to give a little bit because I'm a Marvel guy.
Yeah, please.
Steve Scroce.
Yeah.
If for any of the listeners don't know his work, he has an amazing story called Wolverine Blood Debt. Check out Wolverine Blood Debt. This is before he left comics. Went into doing Hollywood, I believe. This is 2001, maybe earlier than that. I don't know. Somewhere in there, it's like issues like 147 to 151 or something like that of Wolverine. Really, really good. He's got like, Marvel like fans like me fell in love with him working on X books in like the 90s, working on like Cable and X-Men maybe and Ecto Kid and some really gnarly stuff. He is dope. Steve Scroce, go find out his back catalog, and you can do that if you have Marvel Unlimited.
Oh.
That's right.
See, why don't you just do that? Just pick. We could read Wolverine Blood Debt.
No,
It's that easy.
no.
No, he's gonna choose all of One Piece for our next.
Yeah,
episode.
you got to read 940 some odd chapters
God,
of One Piece.
there's
Wolverine
so
Blood
much.
Debt officially collects Wolverine 1988, number 150 to 158, and annual 99.
Okay.
Wolverine Origins
The
or
Blood
Origin
Debt story, I
106.
think that collection has a little bit more than the
that's
the
what I'm going
core
off of. Okay.
Blood Debt story.
Yeah.
But it's great. Check it out. Really, really good. No, I think I want to dig into, and I'm going to let you pick. I'll give you 2 choices.
Okay.
Is it okay to have recent stuff?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Totally.
Okay. The first arc of the current Runaways
Okay.
or the first arc of Immortal Hulk?
Ooh.
Because both are going to knock your teeth in and for different reasons.
How many issues are each of them?
5 to 6.
Okay.
Immortal. I will warn you, Immortal Hulk. You won't stop. Like you have to keep going. There is a first arc, but it is, man. It hooks you in. And Runaways, I think will as well. But it feels like you can have a more finite.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Yes.
I'm going to go Immortal Hulk. Because
Yeah.
you'll be reading this during October when we're on the idea for
Oh, look
spooky
at that.
stuff. So that's what
Exactly.
we're gonna do.
And
So
that's what-
Immortal Hulk, the first run, or
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it might be called like Return of the Monster or something like that. It is written by Al Ewing.
is it collected yet or is it not collected?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it is collected.
It's
so
collected.
trade 1 then of Immortal
Trade
Hulk.
1
Gotcha.
of Immortal Hulk.
Okay.
We're on issue 24.
Oh, wow, okay.
Right now. The first collection written by Al Ewing, art by Joe Bennett. Joe Bennett, like if you went back to your comic book history, you definitely have comics by Joe Bennett from the 90s. This guy is doing work that is unreal and is like a different person. He is just gonna knock you silly. It's so good. Read it. There's a back-to-back double page like spread moment that I like had to get up and walk away. And that's the first issue.
Wow.
It is
Okay.
dynamite. And if you and the rest of the listeners don't keep going,
Yeah.
I'll be
You'll
surprised.
eat your hat.
I will give you a whole bunch of digital codes if you don't.
Wow.
But
Well, you should just do that anyway.
I would
Like,
do that
okay.
anyway. You get a lot of free comics from me.
Oh yeah, no, you do. Yeah, no, I'm in for them. Yeah, no, I
yeah,
know
yeah.
you're very good to me. You're
You
very
tell me
good
how
to
many you want for them, and I'll give them you.
Okay, good. Immortal Hulk Volume 1 is, or is he both? Is
Or
what
is
it's
he-
called.
okay.
Right now on Comixology, it's $1.69.
What?
It's also on Unlimited. Is it on?
The first issues are on because we don't put them in trade on Unlimited. It's just like what issues number? It's the 1 through
It's
6?
1 through 5 is
1
what
through
it
5.
says here.
So,
You can
yeah.
go get that right
The first
now.
5 issues are 100% on Unlimited.
Get Marvel Unlimited Tell them Agent M sent you.
Yeah.
Ryan,
Yes.
before I let you go and let you
great.
fly to New York and do all your life thing, this is another one I'm putting you on the spot for.
Okay.
We end every show with "I love this place," which is a listener or a viewer writing in with their favorite comic shop.
Okay.
When I ask you what's your favorite comic shop or what stands out to you, which one would you recommend and where is it?
So part of the trick is I don't go to comic shops a lot because I don't get a chance to read stuff. I read a lot. If I grab something, it's digitally mostly right now. It does have to be something that's currently open.
Oh no! This is you interpret it how you want to. Like we like to obviously send business to somebody, but also it's like people write in like, oh, my small town in Connecticut. Like I don't expect people to go there because of it. It's just cool to give a shout out.
Yeah. I will say my preface is Gotham Manor, which was my comic shop as a kid. It was a great comic shop.
Yeah.
You walked in, they had themed the entire top of the store as a dark, spooky city, like nice lighting. They had like statues and stuff in there. They had the comics on the left. They had Mortal Kombat 2, Street Fighter 2 machines in the back.
Hell yeah.
They had their long boxes, their comic bins, the collection in dumpsters. You pulled out a a drawer from a dumpster.
Yeah.
And that was where the comics were, but it was looked like a street.
That's
it was
cool,
dark and
dude.
cool.
That is cool.
And when I remember when Death of Superman was coming out, I was a regular comic guy. Everybody in the world was at this comic shop, but like it was literally like one of those moments where, like in a movie where there's people with money like give me, and like it was a madhouse. I walk in, they see me. Over the throngs, they give me a copy of Superman 75 or whatever it was.
You nailed it. You know that.
And like hand it to me, and they're like, "That's for you." And
Damn.
like I was like, "That's the way to handle your people,
Your customers.
Yeah, it was really good. There's a great comic shop and a coffee shop comic shop near a coffee shop in New Orleans. The coffee shop is called Zot's, and the comic shop I think is All Star Comics.
Okay.
I go there all the time because my wife's friend owns Zot's,
Okay.
and so I wander into the comic shop and
Yeah.
I like, I'm gonna buy this Godzilla thing. I'm gonna buy this whole back issue.
Well, I appreciate that you're like so true to form. It was like, yeah, we were running late doing the Patreon queue, or you got here early. And when I finally got off set and I walked over, I was like, hey, everybody. And they're like, Ryan's down at the comic shop below you. I'm like, oh, it makes sense.
Yeah. I go to every comic shop I can.
Yeah.
But I just don't get to patron them as much as I want. Like I buy stuff here and there.
Yeah.
Mega Brain. Sorry, I know I'm doing more than one. Mega Brain Comics. I just visited in Rhinebeck, New York.
Okay.
Really cool. They have a little arcade in the back with X-Men arcade. They have Simpsons arcade. They have a bunch of pinball machines, and they have a collection like 3D comics and really cool stuff. That shop is great.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for spending the day with us.
Greg, thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Don't be a stranger. Come back. We've been trying to get you here for years.
I know.
Always out in New York doing New York stuff.
That's me.
Yeah, all right. We love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been both We Have Cool Friends and the Comic Book Club. If you watched this far, thank you so much for supporting us on patreon.com/kindafunny. Remember, and it could be games too. Every month you get this exclusive show. Bit weird this time around, obviously, but you got this exclusive thing and the ad-free, and it all worked out. Thank you for your support. We'll be talking Immortal Hulk next month. Until then, Excelsior.
Ooh, I like that.